Now the model I found is actually the model I was just showing you, so that's always ideal. And I'm going to turn off both lights just because one of the structures on this one is pretty small, and it's going to be a quick demo, so hopefully I don't put you to sleep too fast. Alright, so we're going to be on page 14, the top of page 14. And first I'm going to go over the general structures and what you would be able to identify in this model versus the smaller kidney, and then we're going to jump to the actual internal kidney structures. So starting, obviously you should be able to identify the kidneys, alright? Now on top of the kidneys we have a smaller gland. This is the adrenal gland. You'll also need to identify the adrenal gland. Now I'm going to take a look at this open one here for a second and show you the difference between the cortex and the medulla. We saw it histologically, but here you can see that this outer region here is actually the medulla, alright? Just this brown rim is going to be the cortex. And I'll explain that more in detail, but as far as identifying cortex versus medulla, if we were to ask you on this model, we just put stickers right on the crest of this. And that's when we'd be asking for the cortex. So the cortex, because it is the outer layer, we can ask for it on a completely enclosed kidney like this, right? That makes sense. So if we put stickers on the outside of this, we're asking for the cortex. We'd be asking for the layer, all right? Cortex is a layer. Now the other thing we can identify is this region here. Right in the medial portion of the kidney, you can see that we have arteries, veins, and right here we have the ureter, leaving or entering the kidney, depending on what it's doing. This area where all three of those things connect to the kidney, that space is called the hilus. So for asking for the hilus, this is really an ideal model to do it. We just put a line of stickers right here, right on the kidney in this region. That's the hilus. Alright, and from here, the other things you can identify are the ureters. The ureters are the tubes that leave the kidney. You can see them on either side. And they come down and they meet with the bladder. So here we have the bladder at the base. And if you look just right here, it's kind of hard to see, but you can see the urethra actually leaving the bladder. So you'll be able to see that underneath the kidney, or underneath the bladder. So in order to show that, we'd basically just flip the bladder over and show you the urethra. Alright, another view just kind of to show you too. Here again you can see the urethra. It's kind of a better angle, so I just want to show you this one so you can see the urethra here. And now I'm going to talk about the actual internal structures of the kidney. So on this one you actually have a larger cortex than the one I just showed you. All of this region where you see the vessels going out like this, all those arterioles going out, that's the cortex. And you can see it right here also shown. Now the medulla is actually a layer that is composed of the renal pyramids and the renal columns. So I'm going to point those out first, and that'll help you get a better idea of where the borders of the medulla are. So first we have the renal pyramids, and those are these guys here. So basically all of these darker, in this model at least, triangular structures, those are the renal pyramids. So it's the triangles. And then in between them, you kind of have better examples down here, those would be the columns, the renal columns. So the space in between the renal pyramids is the renal column. And together, the renal pyramids and the renal columns make up the medulla layer. So it's kind of like the outer border right here, and the inner border is right here. It's that base. Right? Now, working our way now even closer to the center, we have the minor calyx. You can see that each one of these renal pyramids has a drain, kind of looks like a drain, right? Here we have all these drains. Those are the minor calyx. So each one of these, where we have that drain for fluid, is a minor calyx. When two or more minor calyx join, they become a major calyx. So here would be a major calyx. Here's another example of a major calyx when these two join together. Here too, you can see the calyx for that one, even though it's kind of cut off. Now once all the major calyx join together, that's when we have the renal pelvis. So it's right here where all of those calyx come together. Now once the like tube, basically, the renal pelvis leaves the kidney, it becomes the ureter, okay? So this area here is kind of like the gray area between, is this a pelvis or is this the ureter? I'm just gonna draw the line right there, okay? This area is like no man's land. We're not gonna put a sticker here unless we're asking for the hilus, which we would do by putting stickers all the way across here, including the arteries and veins, so it wasn't confusing. So renal pelvis is actually in the kidney, ureter is outside of the kidney, but it's essentially the same tube.
Can you go over what the hilus is one more time?
Yes, I will, thank you. So the hilus is where the vessels basically enter or leave the kidney. So in this section here, like this area would be the hilus. So in order to show that, we'd put a line of stickers in this area. And we'd be sure not to just sticker one of these because that would be very confusing. We'd sticker a bunch of them. Okay, so we'd ask you to identify the structure by stickering basically everything in this area in a straight line. Yeah. Okay, and I think that's everything for this. Any questions?